Star Citizen Alpha 3.19 is just around the corner, and while it may just be a 3.18.4 incremental patch, light on features disguised as a quarterly release for marketing, it still promises to deliver some small but very impactful additions and changes that together are sure to give a little bit more life to this patch cycle, at least until we get 3.20 sometime around CitizenCon. The new PTU patch has already given us a peek at the new version of Lorville, salvage contracts along with a significant addition to the gameplay loop that you won't want to miss, a new Ghost Hollow PvP event, a complete rework of mining balance in addition to a new hand mineable called Janelite that you're really going to want to find for yourself, a new player experience tutorial mission, performance improvements, and a few more features that weren't even in the patch notes. That and more in this installment of the best features, or should we just say the features, of the next patch for Star Citizen. And if you like this video and you think I deserve it, please don't forget to hit that like, subscribe button, and the bell icon so you're alerted the next time I post a video. If you're newer to Star Citizen, you might not know that Lorville on Hurston was actually the first city that Star Citizen ever made. And it's finally being brought up to snuff with the likes of New Babbage and Orison, which has set a standard for quality of Star Citizen cityscapes. The city is now far more sprawling and a great deal more vertical than in the past, featuring peripheral industrial sectors complete with massive furnaces hard at work manufacturing Hurston Dynamics weapons, with even taller and more impressive buildings as you approach the city's central business district, which is right at the foot of the Great Hurston Dynamics building. Winding between and through them are now more clearly scaled elements like roads, trenches, and lights, making the perfect opportunity for white-knuckle low-flying missions and races through the city. And most impressive to me, though, is how the new design better captures the tone and feel of the Hurston dystopian planet. The cyberpunk-esque industrial landscape is now more reminiscent of Blade Runner than ever before, with artfully crafted low, medium, and high-altitude smog that interweaves the buildings and industrial artifices to really give it a sense of scale and depth. It's also lit by gold and blue lighting at night, which is the theme of Hurston and really fitting. Personally, I think it's Star Citizen's very best-looking city right now, so I'm eager to see what they come up with when they redo ArcCorp. Or rather improve. It's actually not really bad, but it just doesn't look as good as the other cities now, and is in desperate need of some additional spaces for us to actually have gameplay in. I mean, it's a city planet and we can't even do any things on it yet. The only downside, though, is that for all these improvements, they're just facade for the moment. CIG has not yet had the time to implement any of the accompanying activities that they've talked about to improve the city, so don't look for any kind of missions or anything in there just yet. We'll just have to wait until some future patch when they have time to focus on expanding the Lorville experience in a meaningful way. 3.19 also introduces the new Salvage contract missions, where you're given the option to either do lawful or unlawful versions of these contract claims, each with different degrees of risk. Risk is explained in the mission before you take it, so be careful to read the fine print. In all cases, though, there is either a small or high chance of being intercepted by NPCs or even players who are also looking to salvage the ship that you've bought the salvage rights for. Seems that those rights might not exactly be exclusive. The missions begin with small ships, but as you work your way through the contracts without abandoning them, they'll lead to far more lucrative and profitable claims, like that of the Hammerhead. But the profits in 3.19 come from more than just the hull scraping you might be familiar with from 3.18, as 3.19 has introduced the ability to strip out exposed weapons and modules using the handheld tractor beam. This gives new players, even with just a starter ship that has a cargo bay, the opportunity to make huge profits just by stripping out the gear that you find. I made nearly 18K on just one Reliant core that I found from a single contract in a starter ship cutter from Drake, with just 20 minutes of work. And that Hammerhead contract, I heard someone made like 200K off of the components in that ship, so it's definitely something worth your time. Related to this change is the introduction of a UI element that activates when looking at removable components that lets you know the item's name, size, and even health, indicated by the bar below the name. Sadly, this doesn't yet influence its value, but I think it's safe to assume that it will at some point affect the sale value of what you find, so Just be careful with them. That's not all though, as you'll also want to check any ship that has a cargo bay now, because it has a random chance to give you some juicy cargo to sell in addition to whatever you strip off the hull and off the modules. All this together has made it for a far more interesting and engaging experience than ever before, so salvagers, warm up your Vulture engines, because 319 is going to be a lot of fun. Component removal isn't just limited to salvage though, as it can be done on any ship with exposed components, so long as the component slots are unlocked through the cockpit or bridge. This enables you to loot ships with valuable components and re-equip them to your own, all on the fly. And for miners, it has potential to really make things interesting. For instance, now mining heads and modules and even saddlebags, which contain the stuff that you harvest, can be removed and replaced and sold. This gives players the option to come prepared for most situations they might face without having to go back to a station to re-equip or buy new things. Just be advised there may be some bugs regarding the insurance in 319, which might not recognize anything you equip via this method, so just be careful of that. Which leads me to the mining changes of 319. Now, technically speaking, the mining rebalance version 01 isn't a feature, it's more of a change to an already existing system. However, these changes are huge and far-reaching, transforming the experience into something very positive. To quote Thorsten Lehmann, lead systems designer for CIG, who created notes for this patch, the changes are to both ship and FPS mining with a wide, sweeping balance change to sell prices, refining effectiveness and costs, component stats, multi-crew mining, efficiencies, mineable difficulties, and masses with larger asteroids, resource distribution, as well as the addition of new minables. The goal of 319 was to make multi-crew mining a lot more attractive, and to even out all the materials to make them all more lucrative instead of just a select few. After that, they went on to list the extensive changes in this patch, which all deserves its own video after I've had some time to really dive into it, because honestly, it's really complex and interesting. Suffice it to say though, this was no small effort on CIG's part and stands to make mining the most complex, interesting, and detailed system in Star Citizen to date. I think it might have even surpassed ship combat because we still have yet to see them do any work on the components to make them more interesting or to change up the weapon balance to make them more unique as they were before after they reset their stats years ago. Some highlights include the addition of Janelite, a new hand and ROC mineable that's worth 27,000 UEC per nugget and a whopping 27 million per one SCU box of it. Just a single one of these nuggets is worth about an hour's work for a new player. But don't go looking for these by themselves, as they're very rare to find and have a higher chance to spawn only in the new sand caves on Magda and on Daymar, of which there are actually quite a few. Unfortunately, there are no missions associated with these caves just yet, so you're gonna have to find some alternative method of locating them, like a third-party website. And also, be sure to bring a friend with you because I found out that I couldn't actually break the Janelite rock by myself. I needed a second person with a second hand mining laser to crack it. And speaking of hand minables, another change includes the multi-tool mining attachment, now including a tractor beam to more easily pick up and store cargo, which is activated by pressing B. Just be sure to equip some sunglasses before you use it because the beam is currently really bright in P2U. They'll probably change this before it goes to live. The UI has also been further refined to reflect these changes, and finally, the biggest change I think is that the frequency of rocks you'll find is greatly increased. It seems now you'll spend a lot more time actually mining as opposed to flying around and scanning, which, let's be honest, was never really that enjoyable in the first place when you compare it to the mining bit. Some smaller changes that didn't make the patch notes but definitely are kinda cool are the addition of some new outfits you can find around Stanton, and the addition of volumetric clouds around ArcCorp. Personally, I think these might be the best looking clouds that they've added in yet, because not only do they look better than the other locations, but their scale actually allows you to cruise in and out of them in a way that gives you a real sense of speed and scale, something akin to what we have here on Earth. I can't wait to see what they have in store now for Vulcan integration with the clouds later this year, as well as the visual improvements they've been talking about to improve how fluffy they look. 319 also is introducing something called the new player experience, which includes an improved UI on the right hand of your screen that gives you tidbits of useful and relevant information to what you're doing, like keybinds and other things, and a tutorial that gives players a chance to learn about the basics of Star Citizen on their first play session. How it works is that after you've completed the customization of your character for the first time, you're asked whether or not you would like to participate in a tutorial. Accepting it takes you through a 30-minute tutorial that begins on Area 18 in the Habs and ends up in space in a nearby orbital space station. It covers some basic things like movement, the use of interactables in the world, purchasing a helmet, getting to a spaceport, using the ASOP terminals, flying a ship out of a hangar, some decent flight instructions, and finally how to land on a space station. It also gives you a set of light armor along with 15k UEC on completion, so it might actually be worth running for those of you who are even more experienced with Star Citizen and want just something a little extra to start off with. Personally, I think it's a great start, but still needs some details added and adjustments made. For example, it asks you to purchase a helmet, but never instructs you on how to actually put it on, and by the way, one doesn't come automatically equipped, basically leading to players entering space without a helmet on. Honestly, it's a recipe for disaster. In my view, it should at least cover the basics of inventory, navigating the different apps in your mobiGlas, and maybe give players a tour of Area 18 before leaving. Actually, that reminds me of an idea that somebody on Twitch had when I was streaming called HeroBrian024. He said that it'd be a good idea to maybe have some kind of wow factor included into the tutorial to really impress new players, and I think that's a great idea. It could be something like EVAing over a planet for the first time, or maybe bringing players to a vista to see a great view of Area 18 or something. Whatever it is though, I think it could be a great way to really sell new players on the idea of getting into Star Citizen. It also has some problems with the new player suit that they give you. It doesn't actually have a med pen or like a multi-tool or a sidearm, unlike what you usually get, so it's kind of a bit of a side grade instead of an upgrade. The light armor is nice, but as a new player, I think it'd be nice to come with all those basics, including a multi-tool, along with maybe even a backpack, so that new players are more equipped for the occasion. And you know, on that subject, it might even be good to teach the players what a med pen is and how to use it, because let's be honest, they're probably going to hurt themselves on some buggy thing at some point in their first play session, and being able to heal will save them a bit of time. In either case though, it's a fantastic start, and I look forward to seeing them polish it and add different chapters for new players to learn about the game. Just be sure to leave some room for us YouTubers to make guides, okay? I'm kidding. Kinda. Last but not least is the addition of the new event at Ghost Hollow. If you don't know what Ghost Hollow is, it's basically a highly detailed expansive crash site on Microtech featuring the wreck of a gigantic salvage ship called the Reclaimer. It's usually occupied by NPC pirates who guard treasure chests, which are hidden in the rusting hulk of the old Reclaimer, but in 319 it's going to introduce something else, a new dynamic event that involves the creation of counterfeit UEC that's triggered by the deactivation of the local communications array satellite just in orbit. The event promises to be super lucrative with high risk because other players will likely also try to do the same thing and kill you for trying to take the UEC instead of them. I actually wish this was the way that Jumptown was triggered, because I think it makes more sense that they would start producing the contraband with the comm array down, but who knows, what do I know? This is definitely an event I'm looking forward to actually trying. PTU has proven to be a little bit buggy over at Ghost Hollow. So overall then, when looking at all the features that CIG have discussed trying to get in this year, stuff like, you know, jump points and server meshing, the patch is pretty light. But despite that, the features and changes are of high quality and certainly add some replayability to the patch. But what do you think? Is it enough in this patch to really give you an idea to want to come back from your break? Or are you still waiting for more? Or perhaps you've never left and you love it? Whatever you feel, I want to know down below in the comment section. And as always, if you like what I'm doing here and you want to see more, you know what to do, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.